welcome you all to our 50th week of AAPka Talk, which will soon be christened AAPka Radio. Today we have on our show Mr. Arvind Jha. He's our social media strategist and right now the Madhya Pradesh campaign coordinator. He has several new ideas up his sleeve, which we would love to have him share with us on how he plans to project a more positive image of AAP. Mr. Jha has been, is from IIT Kharagpur, a senior of Mr. Kejriwal, and has stepped in many crisis situations for AAP, especially after the Lok Sabha election fiasco, where we almost got wiped out. He helped streamline the social media strategy. He was one of his innovative steps for AAP was the donor dinner fundraising efforts, through which he has raised several lakhs. At one point during 2015 elections, he also raised 1.2 crores in just one evening. Unfortunately, the media gave a negative spin to it, like it does to everything else. Without much ado, let's get back to him, and he can start by telling us more about the Madhya Pradesh campaign and our chief ministerial candidate there, Mr. Alok Agarwal. Welcome, Mr. Jha.
Hey, thanks, Vijay. I got involved with Madhya Pradesh about 4 months ago when I met Alok Agarwal. And my key takeaway from meeting Alok was that, we have a super leader, totally connected to the people on the ground, excellent human being, understands the causes of the people, and has the personality to be a true APian in every sense of the word. Trained at IIT Kanpur, spent most of his life fighting for the causes of the most marginalized and forgotten people through the Narmal Bachao Andolan and all the other Andolans he's been part of, and really built an equity for himself as a person who can get the job done. Even in Madhya Pradesh, he'd been working for 4 years, building the organization step by step and creating the machinery that can help manage a campaign. But he probably lacked the support in terms of communication strategies and ideas and branding and structuring and data analytics and just the nuances of, running a campaign a little better. And I thought that, one of our challenges has been that without having a leader in Punjab, we had to face a lot of negative criticism. Here we have a leader who has the size, or the scale, or the tolerance to be a really great champion of our ideology and messaging. And therefore, I started to help him out. And when I started to dig into Madhya Pradesh, it's absolutely shocking. The state of Madhya Pradesh is absolutely shocking. Most of us, and including Madhya Pradesh, actually don't know a thing about Madhya Pradesh. It doesn't come onto the national radar much. Media or television doesn't talk about it much, and you kind of only hear sporadic stories of failures of hospitals or people carrying their dead on their shoulders or on carts, farmers dying, stuff like that. Whereas the state government tries to put out a shining white face of celebrations and awards and all kinds of development that they have done. But if you start looking beneath that, you find that, it's like a chronic sick state. It's been named as a Bimaru state, like a sick state, for almost 50 plus years. And there's only been 2 parties ruling the state. Currently, 15 years has been BJP, and before that, mostly Congress. And even now, Congress is the largest opposition with 50 plus MLAs. But everything in the state reeks of, almost like a clogged heart where all the arteries are choked. There is decades of corruption, loot of public money, total inaction, exploitation of people at every level, especially the official exploitation of people. Since the tribal population is high, rural population is very high, and the education levels are not great, awareness about rights of people are very, very low, and therefore the officials have been really exploiting them wherever possible some people told me that, on a weekly basis, people have to pay 3 times or 4 times bribes just to go about their daily lives. In the last 14 years, the BJP has systematically looted the state. There's a string of scams that they have been part of. Most famous of them, of course, is the Vyapam education scam that you can consider. And there is so much of hopelessness. It's almost like the people have given up hope. There's almost a resigned frustration saying like nothing can happen to us because nobody really cares for us. I can give you more specifics as we go along, but this state is right now at the bottom 3 of almost every human development indicator that you can track as a civilized nation.
Okay, Mr. Jha, can I interrupt you here? So can you
Sure.
tell us, like, what are our prospects there then?
Well, firstly, we have to understand that it's a very big state, very large in terms of area and as well as population. We have 230 assembly segments. And of course, that means that, it's a hard objective, hard battle ahead of us. The good thing going is that because of this complete apathy from the BJP leadership and 15 years of misrule, there is very, very significant anti-incumbency in the state. And there was a recent survey done by a newspaper that shows us that almost 60-65% people want to change the government. So nobody wants to give BJP and Shivraj Chauhan another stint at continuing his mismanagement. The option for people, therefore, is a non-BJP government. In the non-BJP option, of course, Congress is a claimant to the power, but a lot of people still remember the massive corruption that was unleashed by Congress, both when Congress was in power as well as in UPA. So though people want to change, Congress is not an automatic choice for them. And they would love to see an alternative come up. There's been, I would say, trickle-down effect of what AAP has been able to achieve in education in Delhi, or mohalla clinics and healthcare in Delhi, or corruption management in Delhi. And I think that if you can take these stories to people, as many people as possible, given the limited resources that we have, if you can create the story of the transformation that AAP has been able to achieve and what Alok has been able to achieve in Narmada by fighting for people, then I think we will have a really good chance. So our prospects right now, of course, we are under the radar of most people. But the local press in Madhya Pradesh, when they talk about alternatives, they do talk about AAP as an alternative or as a trio of alternatives. So Congress, BJP, and AAP is talked about in the same breath. And there was a senior journalist who wrote recently that, Congress and BJP would ignore AAP at their own peril. So as we start building our momentum and as people start getting aware about, what we've been able to do and what we are thinking of in terms of a new agenda for the state, you will see that the engagement, movement and mentions will start going up.
Okay. Mr. Jha, I would also like to know, it's a big concern that we are not winning elections anymore. We did not do very well in Karnataka too. Do you see any solution for this in the coming, because we are fighting Madhya Pradesh, I think, on all seats?
Well, yes, we are fighting Madhya Pradesh on all seats. There are many reasons for what has happened in Karnataka, but I do think we are winning elections on a fair share. We won Bhavana in Delhi with a fairly handsome margin. I think wherever we have the messaging in place, the machinery in place, the strategy in place, and people in place, there we can do well. Where we can take our messages of our ideology, our good governance, our anti-corruption agenda to people, we do well. When we fail to communicate, then of course we fall behind some of these things. In our learning is that unless you present alternative as a government alternative to people for a very small number of seats, people don't really give you an opportunity unless there is a very strong leader or very strong person. It's almost like a couple of independents running an election. And that's why in Madhya Pradesh we are being very clear since last year that we will be fighting on all the seats and we will present ourselves as a viable alternative, as a force that is intended to go and make a new government. The second part, of course, as I said earlier, is having the right leadership. In Alok, we have the leadership in Madhya Pradesh to challenge the current incumbent leaders, whether it's Shivraj or whether it is 4 or 5 leaders from Congress, and his personality and his vision and his humility and humble approach of making the citizen supreme and making the citizen the Malik is what we need to go and take to people. If we can get people to believe in Alok and his ideas for Madhya Pradesh, then we will be able to perhaps make a really good impact.
Okay,
winning
Mr.
or losing
Shah,
winning or losing will happen. So we need to kind of structure ourselves well and make sure that we run the campaign with whatever learnings that we have in from all the other elections.
Okay, Mr. Jha, you mentioned that Alok Agarwal can be made into a leader as tall as Arvind Kejriwal. You see in him a leader as strong as Kejriwal, but he is not yet a public figure. He may be a great activist, I'm sure, but he's still not a public figure. Hardly anything is known about him unless you pursue his work. How do you plan to change that in the coming months?
So I think, all the people I've met in Aam Aadmi Party, majority of them, they all come from the school of thought where they don't talk much of themselves. And in fact, this is a counter to what now their roles are, which is a political role where your personal brand is very, very important. And Alok also suffers from that. He's fought for 25, 26 years with the Narmada Bachao Andolan and the last 4 years with Aam Aadmi Party. But, he prefers to keep a low profile and hasn't really been able to build his own brand. This we need to change, and we are hoping to change that through a variety of communication channels, direct one-to-one engagement. We've released a couple of videos of Alok already on WhatsApp last 3 months, which have now been shared by many, many people. And now Alok tells me that when he travels within Madhya Pradesh, a lot of people do recognize him. They come up to him, meet him, express their support. The challenge that perhaps you guys see is that even the national press doesn't cover Madhya Pradesh so much. So I'm pretty sure that the international press, and I'll give you an anecdote on this. One of our supporters in Mumbai told me recently, a couple of months ago, that everything is fine in Madhya Pradesh. And I think what's wrong with Madhya Pradesh, and he's one of the leading figures in the financial industry. And when we pushed him a little harder with the data and statistics, and he started doing some Google searches, then he realized that almost all his awareness about Madhya Pradesh was wrong. And actually, he was not aware of the state that Madhya Pradesh is in. So it's up to us to kind of go out and build Alok's persona and Alok's personality and profile and present him as a credible leadership. And that's our big challenge. That's what we are working on.
Okay, Mr. Jha, the thing is, because you've been so involved with fundraising for the party, and since we are, I think, probably facing the worst possible financial crisis in the party, I would like to know from you, how do we course correct from here on?
I would not say that we are facing a worst possible crisis. I've seen a little dry spell earlier as well. The seasons do change. In the last couple of months, we've been able to go raise quite a lot of money for our Madhya Pradesh campaign. I also saw that we were able to go raise significant amount of support for our Karnataka campaign, even though it was a little small-scale campaign. And a lot of, I would say a lot of funding happens because you can demonstrate that, your campaign is running to the expectations of people. So let's talk about, what we are doing in the campaign that will make people, especially our overseas friends, come back and say, look, I want to support this campaign. The first thing is that, just like in Delhi, when I see Delhi and say, okay, what has happened in Delhi? Why are we able to make all these changes in Delhi, all these accomplishments in Delhi that we could not make somewhere else? The thing that strikes me the most is that in Delhi, we were able to fix corruption completely. 81% drop in corruption reported by an independent party. It doesn't happen without fixing corruption. The moment you fix corruption, as a government, you get surplus money to start investing. This money now goes into education, now goes into health and medicine, now goes into creating mohalla clinics. And we can show that in 3 years' time, the surplus money that you're saving from corruption or lining up your own pockets is now creating a significant impact. In Madhya Pradesh, the budget is around 2 lakh crores, 2 lakh 10,000 odd crores last year. It's a huge budget. And if you imagine that, 30% of this budget is actually getting into corruption or corruption-linked pockets, that's 60, 70,000 crores of money that is being siphoned off from people every year. So we are now working on a program saying, look, let's assume we fix corruption for good. And then we are able to make government a little more efficient. So Madhya Pradesh budget actually can go up to 230, 240,000 crores. Just like in Delhi, we've gone up from 33,000 crores to now 53,000 crores in 3.5 years. We are talking about having 3.5 lakh to 4 lakh crore additional budget to go and invest in Madhya Pradesh. And where do you want to invest? On basics. In Madhya Pradesh, although it's a power surplus state, 43 lakh households don't have electricity. 90% plus schools don't have electricity. It's surprising that Madhya Pradesh sells surplus power to rest of the nation, but charges its own people 3 times the rate. So you can come into power and immediately slash electricity rates by 50% across all segments, whether it's domestic or agricultural or commercial or industrial consumers. And you know that once you lower the cost of power, then the economy starts moving up. There is 40,000 crores of agrarian stress or farmer loans, and 5 farmers are dying every day. And the government does nothing about it except make speeches. We believe that in 3 years' time, one can write off all these 40,000 crores just by fixing the corruption that these guys are indulging in. But today they will not able to do that because that's what sustains them. Let's talk about water. There's a trade figure that mentioned that 40 lakh families have to go collect water from about 1.5 kilometers for daily needs. And what does the government do? The government goes and funds toilets under the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So people don't have water to drink, and you expect them to use the toilets. So obviously all those toilets are lying decrepit right now. Nobody's actually using them. These are all immense failures because if you don't create the basics, then you can't do this. So our campaign right now is structured about, okay, we are going to have so much of money. Can we hit the ground running? And what we did was we assembled a whole bunch of people who work in the social sector, NGOs, experts in development, a whole bunch of IITians, many of them Alok's classmates and batchmates and alumni. All other, at IIT, IIM type of alumni who've been helping Aam Aadmi Party with lots of ideas in Delhi. And we said, guys, can you give us blueprints across all these major components to tackle? Electricity, agriculture, economy, tourism, water, roads and transport. Can you help us fix the economy of Madhya Pradesh, assuming we have 70,000 crore surplus? And so now we have draft blueprints that we will announce soon, where you will see that Aam Aadmi Party will talk about a solid, positive development agenda, as opposed to the tutu manner that you will hear Congress and BJP talk about. BJP or the current government will talk about their achievements or their jumlas or whatever else they want to call them right now. They will also try to do their communal politics. Congress will talk about, corruption and the fact that the government has failed, but they will not put forward any specific ideas on how the development should be done. And you will see that we'll have specific ideas on how the development should be done. So that's one big differentiator to get people back into the fold saying, look, these guys are on the right track, their compass is on the right direction. The other is how we are approaching the campaign itself. Now, in the past, we've run campaigns assuming in Delhi we had a very large door-to-door reach out. And people told us when we went door-to-door first time saying, after many, many years, parties have come to us to talk to us at our houses. Because the election campaigning had moved completely onto the media. Today, the credibility of the media has gone down significantly. And we need to go back to that door-to-door. So Alok has been building a 35,000 plus field team right down to the booth level, where these people will be doing door-to-door surveys for us and take our messages directly into homes. And of course, we can't cover all the houses, all the homes, all the booths. So what we are doing is we are doing a strategy to figure out what are the most likely booths where people who like AAP's ideology reside, and can we target those people who matter most to us? Can we make sure that the likely person who's likely going to vote for AAP can be identified? Of course, through profiling, through demographics, through a little bit of probabilistic modeling, and make sure that we can get the data from them and continually kind of keep approaching them. So there's a whole science of doing profiling of people. There's a whole science of doing persuasion. There's a whole methodology and mechanism of making sure people go out and vote. And we are trying a whole bunch of experiments around that, and I'm happy to share more information, whatever possible.
Oh, yeah, okay, Mr. Jha, two questions from this. One is like, are we trying a very different approach in election in our campaigning in Madhya Pradesh? And secondly, would you agree that we have lost our best people to Delhi government, and the party in the process is not doing as well because our best people are now in the government, and the party is struggling because of that?
Well, to the first question, I would say, Vijaya, that we are doing perhaps the most structured campaign that we've done for a while now in Madhya Pradesh as a state. And I only compare that to what we were trying to do in Gujarat or what we were trying to do in Karnataka, because I know that many of these ideas we were doing already in Delhi. A lot of these ideas are learned or inherited from what we've already done in Delhi. But we have kind of put a little bit of more structure on it and a little bit of more science on it, or electoral science on it this time. With respect to your second question, it's bound to happen. We are a small party with smaller number of dedicated full-time people. I mean, majority of the people are volunteers and well-wishers and not full-time politicians. And therefore, there is limited bandwidth or limited capacity. And when you get into government, of course, there is some lack of focus, or some resources get depleted on the party side. And that's the challenge that we all have, to be able to bring in new people, grow the team, build capacity, build bandwidth. I think for some time people are a little skeptical, but now the consistent result that education is delivering, the consistent result that healthcare is delivering in Delhi, and the consistent good words on corruption management in Delhi is now forcing a lot of people to rethink their positions and say, look, whatever we had thought of AAP, perhaps we were too quick to make judgments, and they're doing a good job. They're doing a fine job, and we should look at AAP all over again. I believe that the failure of BJP to be able to bring Achhe Din for us, and complete nonsense that we have seen in terms of polarizing people, divisive politics, and going back into Vedic times with some nonsense, that is now bringing people to the realization that this party, this government cannot deliver any development for India the way we want to. And therefore, we must look at alternatives. And as people start looking at alternatives, they can see that AAP has a really solid model in the Kejriwal formula in Delhi, and that model should be tried at other places.
Okay, Mr. Jha, on a very positive note, let's open the floor for questions. Jesh, you were saying something?
This is Dr. Grewal. I have a question, sir, from Toronto. My question is, when we, since 2014, we did a really good victory in New Delhi, and since then, we have a kind of, we have to change some sort of strategy to pinpoint, because if we have, we don't need to compete on 100% of the seats. If we can, whatever the sources we have, what kind of labor, like a volunteer force we have, if we can identify those seats which are winnable, we have to deliver, because perception is very important, sir, because we have to deliver some good result. Like we look on even, I'm analyzing in the Punjab, what we have is, if we have done only in one area, I mean, why we should compete for, we are saying, oh, we need 110, 117. No, we don't need it. So if we have done the same forces, whatever the sources we have put in like 80 or 90 seats, and we will have a much better results. So we have to pinpoint where it is winnable. We should put all the forces, and where there is not a good chances, we should put the presence, but we should not waste the resources, because we are very limited in resources. And I can give you an example, especially in Punjab. There was 3 seats where we put more than 50% resources. So
I hear you, and I hear you, and I don't disagree with you, but I will present it in a little different way. Yes. At the high level, you want to be able to compete to be an alternative. You want to present a new alternative to people. And therefore, you must fight in all the seats, or as many seats as possible, because people must know that you are serious about making a government, that you are fighting to make a government. But of course, within that overall strategy, there are three tiers of seats. There are T1 or priority 1, priority 2, priority 3 seats. And these depends on many factors. Some factors could be your organizational strength, your candidate strength, the volatility score that I talked about. But we've gone one step further below that. We are saying we are not only focusing on the priority of the assembly segment. Within that assembly segment, we are going down further into the booths. So we are actually mapping detailed volatility scores of the booths. We have very small resources available to us, and we want to optimize those resources, exactly what you're saying. Don't spread yourself too wide. But we do want to present a credible alternative as a government-forming alternative to the people. I hope that makes it clear.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Any more questions?
Hi, Vijaya. This is Aditya here. I'm calling from New Brunswick, Canada. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Aditya, go ahead.
In Delhi, Aapki Kranti played a really good role. And Aapki Kranti was a mouthpiece of Aam Aadmi Party, which was managed by some of the volunteers. And it was, I think, bi-weekly e-paper and printed. So it was printed stories and delivered to all the household. So that played a really key role. So any plan in continuing for the Madhya Pradesh election?
Hey, Aditya, thanks for the question. Aapki Kranti, I think, was a very nice platform. And I think the MP team has already done one release of Aapki Kranti. One of the things that I'm trying to do is, measure every initiative that we do, every communication that we do, find a way that, somehow we can measure what the impact may have been, so that we can decide either throw more resources at it or go somewhere else. So we are looking at it as an experiment right now. And if the current experiment or the current release of Aapki Kranti as a paper in the MP shows us the right numbers, then we will spend more resources on that for sure.
Okay. And can I add one more thing? Because we lost badly in Karnataka and again in Sahakot in Punjab. So if those people who contested in those constituency can give some important input how to do the campaigning and everything, those inputs might be really helpful in Madhya Pradesh.
Very good point. I have all the inputs from the Karnataka team.
And to add one last point, it's my last question. So before election start and all the people, they are contacted and asked for the donations, and once election results are out and luckily or unluckily we win or lose. So what happened if we lose? A lot of the volunteers, they disconnect themselves because either we are not contacted back or there's no message from the top level. Like suppose I'm just giving example, Arvind Kejriwal did a appeal for the people to come forward and donate, and we lost the election. And if there is a thank you message or any encouraging message, some kind of emotional connection we need to have with all the donors.
Very good point. And I believe that, just after the Punjab election, Prithvi had sent a very nice email. I believe that there is an initiative right now. You will see another mail around Karnataka very soon.
Okay.
I have this is Dr. Grewal again. I have a question. One question which is, pinching a lot of like tertiary level volunteers because of the people who do not follow the discipline within the party, especially in Punjab right now. You can see that one where the party was and what we not taking any disciplinary action. That is draining the people's morale, and because what happen is people do not like to donate when they feel there is no leadership, and you can see that if one person do some mistakes which is supposed to be disciplined, and the next person they dare to do that same thing again. And it's a very bad situation. I give through this media, I would like to give this message to New Delhi that we have everywhere. We know that one what happened when Kumar Vishwashi was, you know that one what happened. Everybody know that one, where we are on that issue. And the same thing that's happening in Punjab. And that's basically what we lose, because we have made thousands of calls to the Shahkot area. And the only thing we are listening from them is they cannot trust when you don't have a leader. So first of all, even win or lose, Kejriwal ji have done a wonderful job, and people vote for him, not for anybody else. And even we lose, or we were not basically in Punjab, we didn't lose, but we make a opposition, a good opposition. But since then, maybe the Punjab leadership is not respectful that way or like that, but we have to take a disciplined action because we do not want a weed, because any crop cannot be giving you a cannot give you a yield as long as we have some weeds. We have to identify those people who are working against the party,
Mr.
within the
Grewal, I
party.
think we should allow Mr. Jha to answer.
Yeah, please.
Thanks, Vijaya. Dr. Grewal, thank you for your observation. I have been completely heads down, blinkers on, focused on Madhya Pradesh since February. So I would really focus myself on February and on Madhya Pradesh in this call. I will be happy to pass on your message to the team, Punjab team.
Well, thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Jha, would you can you tell us how some of the new strategies you'll be trying out in Madhya Pradesh for the first time? I believe you want it to be a more professional approach like the way it's done in the US, and we spoke briefly about that. Would you like to throw more light on it?
Sure, happy to. So typically, what happens in the US is you do profiling of your voter files. Your voters, you know the voters well, and you try to find out who are the people who are committed voters, deep voters who registered as a Democrat or a Republican, who are the people who are neutrals or floating, who are the people who are mildly possible to influence or persuade, and what their issues are, what their causes are. So you kind of have different buckets of profiles of people, saying sort of, I heard a figure about 300 plus variables of data on every voter. And you try to match known profiles with the voter database to see who are the likely people to vote. So we're going to do that experiment and see how much of that we can localize here. So we've got now about 30,000 people, or 35,000 people who've called us on our helplines in Madhya Pradesh, saying that they want to be associated with that party. About 10,000 of them have actually gone ahead and said, we will vote for you, whatever happens. So what we call, these are hard voters for our Party. Now we are trying to understand exactly what profiles, what demographic profiles, what economic profiles they come from, and how they are dispersed across all the 230 assembly constituencies. And of course, the next step is to say, if we find somebody with pattern A, how many people are there with that pattern A in that constituency, in that booth, and how can we go find them? So you will see a lot of that matching or mapping of profiles happening in Madhya Pradesh. The other thing that we are doing is we are going to be doing continuous polling of people. So we are going to, on a weekly basis, assess what our vote share is. One of the things that fascinated me when I studied the Obama campaign is the claim that they pretty much knew all the 6 crore, 59 lakh people who voted for them. Now, that may be a stretch, but even if they knew 90% of those voters, that was really, really fantastic achievement. So can we create a system where we know who is going to vote for whom and match that with a Form 20 later on and see, were we very off? We should not get into a situation where we get very low vote count and we are projecting a very high vote count. So we'll have this continuous IVR-based polling mechanism that we are going to try. And the third thing that we are trying is that, every campaign, when I looked at the Punjab campaign, for example, and we were doing a fair amount of IVR-based campaigns, unfortunately, we were not looking at any analytics from that campaign. And I saw that 90% of those campaigns, people were dropping the IVR call within the first 7-8 seconds. And that should have sent a warning signal to the campaign team saying there's something wrong. Why people are not listening to our campaign. So for us in this campaign, every communication piece that we do, we want to find a mechanism that we can monitor it, we can analyze it, and we can learn from that. Both from a point of efficiency of cost capital, as well as from a point of view of knowing which messages are working and which messages are not working. And how can we tailor, how can we amplify those that are working and those that are not working. So you will see many new experiments that we hope to do and learn from. And hopefully those learnings will carry forward into the Lok Sabha elections and most importantly into the Haryana elections next year.
How do you see this rainbow coalition that's come together now? Will it affect AAP also as much as it will affect the BJP? Because we cannot be an active member of that coalition.
I believe that the coalition will have a little bit of effect for sure, but I think that effect will be mostly at the national level. At the state level, because of the local dynamics and because of the strong anti-incumbency against the BJP, as I said earlier, and also the strong distrust and bad experiences people still have about Congress. And as I said earlier, Congress has 4 or 5 major leaders who are going to start. They already have started assuming that they'll all become cabinet ministers and started to fight amongst themselves. It is up to us to take a positive, development-oriented message of empowerment of people and fixing many of the problems of Madhya Pradesh to the people. If we can do our job, we have to play our game, as they say, and not worry about what's happening outside the courts. Our game is that we have a really strong, positive development agenda, solutions from Madhya Pradesh. We need to find a way to take that to people. What we need is help from all our supporters worldwide to empower us and give us some resources. We are already running a fairly efficient, cost-efficient campaign. We'll continue to be very efficient, but the more resources we have, the more people we can reach with that messaging. So we'll focus on our game and let others, I'm not looking at Lok Sabha 2019. I'm looking at Madhya Pradesh 2018. And I didn't talk about candidates, so let me just give you a sense of the candidates and how we are approaching them. About a month ago, we had made an open call for candidates, and it's on the website. Anybody can apply to be a candidate, and the only criteria are the 3C criteria that AAP has been consistently following: no criminals, no corruption in the record, and clean characters they must have. We are not here to kind of fight elections on any caste lines or any religious lines. We want really good candidates who feel that they can do something for the state and who can align with the ideology that we are following and the kind of governance model that we've been able to demonstrate in Delhi. So I think we have about 1,100 people who have downloaded our application form so far, and we expect to see highly professionally trained, highly socially trained, and really committed candidates as we go along.
Okay, that's a wonderful initiative. Mr. Jha, would you like to share some more, of your experiences in Madhya Pradesh so far, since the time you started in Feb?
Sure. I can tell you that, currently we have about 8,900 Mandal Adhyaksha. The Mandal Adhyaksha is somebody who's actually managing a election center. An election center may have multiple booths underneath that. So there's a whole state-wise organization already built up. That's what our election machinery is. And the job of the machinery is door-to-door surveys, pick up the issues of the people, and make sure that they go out and vote. And I think that's what is going to make a difference. And our target is we have 65,000 voting booths. So we need to have at least 2 people. So we are looking at doubling this or tripling this number by end of July. That's what the whole organization is working on. So if we can do that, then we are in the game in terms of going and reaching out to people. There are many challenges. As you know, Madhya Pradesh is what they call media dark. Media doesn't reach there much. Social media also, the penetration is quite low. Phone penetration or smartphone penetration is also quite low. So we do have to fall back on traditional mechanisms of reaching villages. 72% of the population is in the rural areas. So it will take us a fair amount of challenging, I would say, tasks in getting the messages out. But we are committed to trying our best with whatever limited resources we can get. We are looking for support across technology, across communication, across fundraising from our volunteers in the US and overseas. Please do help us. And if you have any ideas and any ability to help us, contact me and I will make sure that I can connect you with your team. And thanks again for inviting me, and thanks for keeping the flag of AAP Radio flying high.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jha. It was a pleasure having you, and I for one learned a lot about Madhya Pradesh, which was again hidden by the media from all of us.